Hi friends, in this video we are going to study the PMI PMBOK guide and knowledge areas. We will look into the importance of project management, its key components, and the integration management. Importance of project management. The key points to effectively evaluate the importance of formal project management in individual groups, public and private organizations are: meet the business objectives, satisfy the stakeholder expectations, be more predictable, increase the chances of project success, resolves problem and issues timely, provide the right products at the right time, manage risks, identify, recover or terminate any failing projects, use organizational resources to better manage constraints, balance influence of any constraints on the project, and of course, manage any scope change in a better manner. If the projects are not managed effectively using project management tools and techniques, it will lead to poorly managed projects, which will lead to missed deadlines, cost overruns, poor quality of work, which will lead to reworks, uncontrolled expansion of the project, loss of reputation of the organization, the unsatisfied stakeholders, which will ultimately lead to failure of all the objectives for which the project was undertaken, which no one will definitely want. Hence, in today's competitive world where large complex projects are involved, project management plays a key role to ensure project success and satisfaction of all stakeholders. PMBOK lists following as the key components to understand and study project management. The key components are project life cycle, project phase, phase gate, project management processes, project management process groups, and the most important, the project management knowledge area. Giving a brief description of each, the series of phases through which a project passes through from its start to completion is called as the project life cycle. So a phase can be defined as a collection of logically related project activities that culminates in the completion of one or more deliverables. So a number of related activities together which yields a certain result or a completion of a milestone. For example, the planning phase. At the end of the planning phase, we will expect all the permits and drawings to be ready. That is the deliverable. Next is the phase gate, a review at the end of a phase in which a decision is made to continue to the next phase, to continue with any modification or end a program or project is made. So it is usually a gate that the higher management takes a decision to whether to move forward into the next phase or not. The project management processes, a systematic series of activities directed towards causing an end result where one or more inputs will be acted upon to create one or more outputs. So all the processes that are process oriented, which have an input, have a certain process of tools and techniques, and give an output, are grouped into process groups. So a logical grouping of these processes, inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs is the project group, which includes initiation, planning, executing, monitoring and control, and closing. Remember, project management groups are not project phases, which are often taken as a synonym. Talking about the project management knowledge areas, these are defined, identified areas and requirements of project management body of knowledge, which embodies all these processes, inputs, outputs, tools, and techniques, etc. Each of this will be studied in detail in this and other lectures. Looking into the interrelationship of these components in the project, it can be summarized as follows. Project life cycle forms the broad pathway through which the project begins at the start, through the organization and preparing phase, carrying out the main work at site, and the closing and the ending phase. These interact continuously with the process groups like the initiating processes, the planning processes, executing process, monitoring and control, and the closing process. These might be independent from each other or interrelated dependent on each other, often crossing their paths. Further, in the subset is the 10 knowledge areas. Knowledge areas constantly are linked with each of these processes and yield value. So, what are these 10 knowledge areas that we have been talking about? From PMBOK 5th edition to PMBOK 6th edition, there has been certain updates on the knowledge areas. The first is integration management, second, scope management, third, which was earlier called as time management, is now schedule management, cost management, quality management, earlier which was human resource management is now resource management. So human is removed. Communication management, risk management, procurement management, and the last, stakeholder management. These form the 10 main knowledge areas, each of which is discussed in detail further. Project integration management includes the processes and activities which identify, define, combine, and unify, as well as help coordinate between all various project processes and process groups, as well as is a link between all the 9 other knowledge areas. The project scope management includes the process which ensures that all the work required for the project is documented, which helps to complete the project successfully. Schedule management obviously relates to managing the project timelines by using various tools and techniques and schedule. Project cost management includes the process involved in planning, estimating, budgeting, financing, funding, managing, and controlling the cost of the project throughout its timeline within to keep it within the approved budget. Quality management includes the processes for incorporating the organization's quality policy. That is, there should be zero rework and to meet the quality requirements of the stakeholders. Resource management includes the processes to identify, acquire, and manage the resources needed for the successful completion of a project. While communication management is a high level knowledge area which ensures that there is a proper communication channel flow between each of these stages and the project information is dealt carefully. Project risk management, which is very important, is the process of conducting a risk analysis, planning, identification, response planning and implementation, and monitoring the risk on a project. Project procurement management includes the necessary processes to purchase or acquire products, services, or results needed from anyone outside the project team. While project stakeholder management includes the process to identify people, groups, and organizations that could potentially be impacted or can directly or indirectly impact the project in future. So all of these knowledge areas are listed and described briefly in the part 1 of PMBOK. The PMBOK has three main parts. The first part deals with an introduction to the environmental factors and the role of project manager, which we already studied. And rest till the 13th chapter, we see all the 10 knowledge areas. Further, in part 2, that is the standard for project management, it includes 6 chapters, 5 of which is actually the process group, that is initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and control, and the closing process groups. While the part 3 is the general appendix, glossary, and index for the book. This was a brief introduction to what the parts of PMBOK are and the 10 knowledge areas. Let us now study in detail about the first and very important knowledge area, project integration management. So, project integration management includes the processes and activities to identify, define, combine, unify, and coordinate all the various processes and project management activities within the project management process groups. So we have discussed that the main are the project management process groups inside which each of these knowledge area plays their roles. And integration management runs through all the other 9 project knowledge areas as well as the project groups, unifying them and helps to coordinate amongst them. Thus, integration includes the characteristics of unification, consolidation, communication, and interrelationship. A project manager, through his position as the driving force of a project, as we have studied, has a very important role of ensuring an integrity and integration of all these factors. These actions should be applied from the start of the project through the completion. So the project integration management includes making choices about resource allocation from time to time, balancing the competing demands, examining any alternative approaches in order to ease if there are any resource issues, etc., tailoring the processes to meet the objectives, managing any interdependencies among the project management knowledge areas. At a high level, the project integration processes are listed here. There are 7 main processes within project integration knowledge area. That is, developing a project charter, develop the project management plan, direct and manage project work, manage project knowledge, monitor and control project work, perform integrated control, and close project or phase. So project charter development is the first initial step of starting the project. This process of developing a document that formally authorizes the existence of a project and provides the project manager with the authority to apply organizational resources to his project activities. Next comes the project management plan, which includes the processes of defining, preparing, and coordinating all the plan components required. It might be drawings, etc., schedules, and consolidating them to form an integrated project management plan. Directing and managing project work, This means the process of leading and performing the work defined in the project management plan and implementing it to achieve the project objectives. This is the execution. Managing the project knowledge is using the existing knowledge in the organization, the enterprise resources, and thus creating new experience, new knowledge, and sharing it with the organization, which can be recorded as an organizational learning. This is usually done throughout the execution process as well as documented at the end of the project and is often referred to as the organizational learning. Monitor and control project work means tracking, regularly reviewing, and reporting the overall progress of the project and performance to the senior management of the organization as well as other key stakeholders. Performing an integrated change control means reviewing and approving changes that comes from time to time, managing organizational process assets, documents, plans, and communicating the decisions to all. The close project or close phase means finalizing all the activities of the project or contract and closing the project well. Let us look at what each of these processes for the whole in the inputs, tools and techniques and outputs. As discussed previously, each process is typically divided into three main stages, that is inputs. What information or data will be required to start developing that process? Second is the tools and techniques. This is the knowledge, the experience, or any kind of software that can be used to process all the inputs which can give a defined output. The output thus received can further form as an input to any other processes or can be good enough to make certain decisions. For the example, let us consider the develop project charter. When we are to start a project, we will require the organization's business documents, the signed agreements for the project, enterprise environmental factors, that is, what all is going on in the enterprise's environment, as well as the organizational process assets, the knowledge that the organization is having, its previous learning, experience managing similar projects, etc., are a great input. While the tools and techniques used here is expert judgment of senior professionals and management, the data gathering technique from past projects, interpersonal and team skills a project manager designated has to develop the project and should have good interpersonal skills so that there is no argument or confusion. Often, large number of meetings are held at the initial stage while developing the charter. In the output, we will see a project charter developed, which forms the basis and brings the project into existence, and an assumption log. At the start of the project, everything is very crude, as and when the plans, the schedules, the budgets, etc., are refined, the assumption log changes and we get the concrete data for project execution. Thus, the project charter now becomes an input for the next process, that is project management plan, which also has similar kinds of inputs, tools and techniques that is available at the time, and the output received is project management plan, which will further now become as the input for managing project work, along with similar other inputs, tools and techniques. The outputs here received are the main deliverables or the scope of the project, issue logs, change requests while we are working, the project management plan updates from time to time, and there are new organizational process asset updates like the learnings that we get. Further, the project management plan, the updated knowledge assets form part of the managed project knowledge process. Then there is monitor and control work, perform integrated change control. At the last, the close project or phase, which includes inputs from all the previous processes like the project charter, the project management plan, project documents, accepted deliverables by the client, which is signed off. Again, the business documents are reviewed, new agreements signed, procurement documentation, organizational assets. Once again, through meetings and expert judgment, we come to a conclusion. The outputs are the final report, the final product, service, or the result for which we have been working, the project document updates, and the organizational process assets updates. This is an overall project integration overview, which brings us to the lecture summary. We have studied the key components of PMBOK and defined life cycle, project management phases, the process groups, and the 10 knowledge areas. Also, we have seen that PMBOK is divided into three parts. The first part is the guide and covers the introduction, the roles of project manager, and the 10 knowledge area, while the part 2, the standard, gives brief on all the 5 project groups. You're always to remember as future project managers the 10 knowledge areas as I saw 6 cars quickly rip Carol's rear passenger side. This is a mnemonic to remember integration, scope, schedule, cost, quality, resources, communications, risk, procurement, and stakeholders. Thank you.